Hey everybody, this is Sean, your local dietitian out of Atlanta, Georgia. Today we're continue on our discussion with what to eat pre-activity or training. Our last video, we specifically talked about what are the type of foods and nutrients to have 3 to 4 hours before your training. Today we're going to talk about what are the things to eat 1 to 2 hours leading up to your training time. Now, I'm just going to briefly recap, right? 3 to 4 hours before your training, we want to have some type of full meal. That's going to include a carbohydrate, a protein, and some type of fruit and vegetable, right? Getting all the nutrients that we need on that plate leading up to the specific game time. We're eating that meal or a larger amount of food this far away from the specific activity because that's putting us in a position where it has a chance to start the digestion process and put us in a position where we have less of the chance to have any type of digestive issues. Now, obviously, the type of carbohydrates and proteins you choose are important, right? Choosing a lean protein source that may be a little bit less in fat. Some athletes may be more advantageous to do some type of simpler carbohydrate, a white rice, a white potato that may be a little bit less in fiber, or some of your vegetables that are a little bit less in fiber and a little bit more easier to digest. Those are just considerations that are going to come from athlete to athlete. But to give you a couple of examples, right, when you're thinking about what could I make or what could I buy, right? You know, a lot of athletes eat out nowadays. I always encourage them to try to cook their food. It's going to save you money, and you're going to know actually what you're putting in your food versus buying it and not knowing what you're putting in their food. But I digress. So, quick and easy example, something 3 to 4 hours. You could have a sub, you could have a sandwich, turkey, ham, roast beef, steak, grilled chicken. Having some type of vegetables, some type of cheese on there, whatever your favorite cheese is. And then on the side, it could be fresh fruit, go-go squeeze, fruit cup, smoothie, some type of vegetable, right? And essentially that would be kind of a complete meal. Another idea, which is pretty popular with athletes, is you could do some type of pasta. So it would be your favorite pasta, penne, fettuccine, angel hair. Trying to go with some type of vegetable-based sauce, so like a pesto or a marinara sauce over a creamier sauce or a really heavy cheesy sauce would be more advantageous, just to reduce the risk, because again, those really heavy creamy cheesy sauces are going to take a lot longer to digest because of the amount of fat that's in there. So definitely keep that in consideration. And then the third idea, right? So we have something that's kind of quick and easy you can make from a sandwich or a sub, or a wrap standpoint. The pasta, again, you can go out and buy it, but they have 90-second pasta. You get a jar of sauce. If you don't know how to make your own chicken, they now have frozen chicken that's already grilled and cooked, and you just have to heat it up. So if you have no clue how to cook, there's lots of simple things you can get from the store to throw that together. When all else fails, if you're someone who does go out to eat, try to obviously choose the highest quality option depending on where you're going. So, for example, Chipotle, pretty easy option to make lots of good choices, right? Carb options, you get brown rice, you get white rice, you have two different types of beans. You can get tortillas. So that could be the carb options you get from Chipotle. They got lots of different vegetables, whether it's corn, peppers, onions, lettuce, different types of salsas. You have your healthy fats with your guacamole, and then they have several different types of meat options or plant-based meat options, depending on what you do. But these are just a couple ideas that you guys could possibly implement 3 to 4 hours before, whether it's making yourself or ordering it. Now, 1 to 2 hours before game, training, activity, all right? Things that we want to make sure that we're keeping in mind are these right here, all right? We want to focus as we get closer to whatever the activity is and prioritize foods that are high in carbohydrates, that are going to help hydrate us, and that are going to have the key electrolytes that are going to help us rapidly rehydrate or be hydrated leading up to that specific event, right? So, and it's also important that we're getting a mixed variety of carbohydrate options. Okay, if you look back into chemistry class, right, you got lactose, you got fructose, you got glucose, and each of those are going to break down and digest at different speeds. So by having a mix of different options can actually be a little bit advantageous to do, because then you have different absorption and different digestive rates. But we are trying to go with carbohydrates that are going to break down a lot quicker and reduce our risk for digestive issues. So that's why things that are really high in fats, even if it's healthy fats, having some protein, but not something that's really high in protein. Again, all these things may slow digestion, make you feel slow, sluggish, stomach discomfort, body vomiting, nausea. Again, that's not me telling you can't have those foods. You shouldn't have those foods. But if you have those things in large portions as we get closer to the specific activity, the risk of those possibly occurring could happen. Now, there's athletes that have trained their gut and trained their body to have some of those foods in larger portions, getting closer to training time, and don't have any issues at all. But if you've never tried that and you've never done that, you definitely shouldn't just right off the bat do that, because it's probably not going to be an awesome decision to do. For example, right, I have an athlete that could eat an entire 12-ounce or 12-inch sub from Firehouse or Subway 30 minutes before his game and would play terrific every time. But he's also did that the last 10 years leading up to that point. So his body has been able to adjust and know he's going to get that food during that time. Would I recommend today as the best possible option? No. That's part of his routine. That's what he's done. He reports he feels really great during games. So who am I to tell him not to do it? Right? Where you have other athletes, they might get nervous, they might get anxious, they might get overly excited, which can affect their hormones that make them, suppress their appetite, make them not feel hungry, or make them feel more nauseous because of some of those mental things that are happening. That's another consideration you have to think about. And if that's in consideration too, then yeah, they're not going to accept or want foods that may make that current feeling feel worse. Right. So for example, the athletes I work with now, I use fruit snacks and gummies. They're really quick and easy. They taste good. They're made out of fruit juices and they're really quick and easy to digest. And the guys really love them. For me, I'm getting a quick, easy digestible carbohydrate source in. If I didn't have those around, or Rice Krispies, oranges, a couple other different things, I may not be able to get some guys to eat anything leading up to a game, or may not get them to be able to eat anything during a game, which we'll talk about in game fueling. So you got to win your battles and know your population and know your group that you're working with, because those things are all going to be really important. So here's just a couple quick examples, right, that you can get pretty much at any store, or nowadays, if you work in athletics, ordering them offline, whether it's Amazon or probably pretty much any store, or you could order and have it delivered right to your door. But these are some examples that I've used before. Again, these are not the only examples. I'm not saying these are the best possible examples. These are just some things that you could possibly put out to have before that time. Now, here's some examples on how you can match them up leading to before the activity or pre-activity time. Right? So you could have, and an athlete may just do one of these, right? They may just do a Nutri-Grain bar. An athlete maybe didn't have as big of a meal and is feeling a bit hungrier, so he wants a Nutri-Grain bar and some beef jerky, or some goldfish and some beef jerky. It really depends, right? It's talking, communicating with the athlete, seeing what they're willing to eat, see what works for them, and then just getting them a couple options, right, that they like and they enjoy. If you have 50% of your athletes that love white cheddar smart popcorn, and we can get 20-40 grams of carbohydrates in them by eating this one bar or this one bag of something, cool, let's go ahead and make sure we're having that available frequently leading up to activity, so that way we know they're for sure going to eat that and they're going to get some type of carbohydrates in. Because let's be realistic, right? Again, in the real world, if a kid could eat a meal, then eat a small snack, and then top something off before the game or for the activity and training, that's great. But realistically, that doesn't always happen. So you might have athletes where they eat breakfast, and let's say their game's at 7 o'clock. Maybe they eat a really small lunch or no lunch. And then the next thing they eat maybe is this snack. And that's not optimal, and that's not what we recommend. It's not what we want, but that's just real life, and that's what happens. So you have to be able to curtail and work around that, educate them, show them why it's important, and then get them to see, by them including it, how that's helping them, right? The more I've been able to introduce electrolytes and some of these quick, easy snacks around training time, athletes have felt better. And if you can improve their energy, that's typically the first and quickest thing you can do to get some buy-in. But again, these are all sorts of different snacks you can try. I would honestly poll your athletes and see what snacks they like and what they're willing to eat. And then that way you can have different things you can rotate through and provide them. And that way you don't get flavor fatigue, you don't get snack fatigue. It's not the same things over and over. Now, again, like the fruit snacks, right? My athletes are going to eat those no matter what, every single game, every time that I have them, because that's what they love. Other stuff, if you see them start to not eat it, they're not picking it up, it's still left on the table, that means you probably need to introduce a new flavor or try something different because they just don't want it. So don't just keep the same stuff to keep it. Try to rotate, include one thing every couple of weeks, every month, just to give it a try. And then eventually you're going to be able to staple down and figure out, what are my top 5 mainstays that every time I put them out, the table is clear, they get used, they eat them, it's having a positive benefit. And that's the type of things you need to look for. And again, polling's super easy. You could do it after a practice. You could do it in a workshop. You could text it to them through a group message or Teamworks or whatever type of communication source that you have. And it just gives you really fast information. And then when they say, well, I don't want this, well, then you can just say, well, I polled and 70% said they wanted Nature Valley Crunchy Bars. So I'm going to include those because a majority of the group's going to eat them, or you said that you wanted them. If you want something different, I can resend you the survey and then you can retake it and then we can see what your new likes are or what things you want to try that's different. Again, always taking the athlete's feedback into consideration. And when you do that and you do change something, and it was something that they requested, that's going to give you a little bit more buy-in, which is always going to help big time. Now, if you want to learn any more nutrition facts, different recipes on how to cook, exercise technique, information about strength and conditioning, or you want to listen to my Roots podcast, you can hit up my Linktree link in my bio or go to my Instagram, overtime_Sean, and I have all my digital links there in one spot. All this information is free. I'm trying to educate the public on how to improve your nutrition and obviously how to train better, smarter. Obviously, it's mostly towards athletes, but any of this information, anyone from the general population can pick up and utilize, and it can be very beneficial and help you. Hope you have an awesome day.